The movie was incredible.
Just jumping, just had me, rocking on my seat,
It was an experience of a lifetime.
It was cute. It was way cute. I loved it. It was brilliant. It really was.
I recommend it. It's a tearjerker.
I think everybody should see this movie.
So I'm sitting here with the director of 127 Hours, Danny Boyle.
Hiya.
How are you today?
Very well, thanks.
I thought the movie was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, good.
So for those of us who don't know, 127 Hours is the story of Aaron Ralston, a climber that was stuck in a canyon in Utah, and the story made international news. So I wanted to know, I want you to bring me back to the moment that you heard the story of Aaron Ralston. What was that like?
Well, the first time I heard it was in 2003 when it happened, and I was living in the UK, where, I live in London, and I heard it then, but it was one of those stories that, it's a bit like the Chilean miners now, although it was on a very different scale. It just snags. It's like, wow. And I remember waiting for him to come out of hospital, because he did a press conference when he came out, either when he came out of hospital or whether he was still in hospital, I can't remember, and I was fascinated by it. And so when his book came out in 2006, I read his book. And actually, I approached him about making a film about it then. And I described the kind of film I wanted to make of it, which I had a very clear idea of, that I wanted it to be like an immersive first-person experience where the audience are like him. They sort of live the film with the actor, because it's a single-person film, if you like, with a very harrowing conclusion as your way through to the end. Basically, we asked to borrow the story. We said to him, because people often say, what do you do with a real-life story? What do you do? And of course, I said to him, look, I'd like to have you around, and you can come in and tell us things. And I said, I promise, but I don't want you around a lot, because I want the actor to go through this experience. I don't want your shadow over it the whole time. And I want it to be our story that we tell. And we will hand it back to you at the end with the greatest possible respect. And I believe you'll be proud of the way that we've told it. But that's the way I want to do it. And he was very gracious, and he agreed to do it like that.
As you said before, the movie centers around mainly one character throughout the entire movie. How difficult was it to cast that role of somebody that you knew that had to carry the movie throughout its entirety?
Yeah, there's not many people that can do it, really. They have to have a certain amount of charisma, which is not, it's not quantifiable. You either have it or you don't. It's very difficult to pin down. But I also knew that we needed an actor who had a big range, because only he was going to create the contrast that you normally get in a film by introducing different characters, like a villain or the love story or a comic character. And I thought that he's got to have that himself. And James Franco, of course, is extraordinary, because he can do things like Pineapple Express, and then he does Spider-Man, which is very straight, City by the Sea, which is very straight, and then Milk. And it's already quite a big range he was in of films, and I thought that quality will be wonderful he brought to it. And of course, in our film, he has this extraordinary sequence where he appears to go on this talk show, and he plays a series of different characters as his mind kind of begins to disintegrate, and he tries to entertain himself and entertain the people he's leaving the message for, and so James was able to do that, which was brilliant, and it is a brilliant performance.
What was your first impression of James?
Well, he's always stoned, or he looks stoned. He doesn't take drugs, but he looks stoned half the time. And it's a front, I discovered. This is what it's a little mask that he can hide behind, because inside he's hyperactive, actually. He's the opposite of stoned. He's like alert, and he's constantly soaking off information. And so it's a front that he puts up, and it helps him relax, actually. Because behind this mask, he can do his work. And then he has this relaxation mode into acting, and which is essential for this kind of, where the focus is literally like all the time there like that on him.
When did you know that he was the man for this role?
Well, we met him in New York, and I thought he was stoned. He was like so out of it. It was like, does he even know I'm here? It's like, but he was so relaxed. It was alarming. And anyway, then we met him in LA again, and he was wonderful, actually. He read a bit of the script for us, and as soon as he opened his mouth, I knew it was him, really.
I also wanted to talk about the actual camera work in the movie, because I felt like I was in the canyon the entire time.
Good.
So I wanted to know how you achieved that.
Well, we sort of so we built the real canyon. We filmed for a week in the real canyon, but it's very dangerous to film there. So we filmed there for a week, and then we filmed for about a month in the recreated canyon, and we recreated it exactly. None of it moved, so it wasn't convenience like for filming. So you couldn't get a film camera in, it's too small. So we shot on these digital cameras called SI2Ks, and we'd use them on Slumdog Millionaire in the slums in Mumbai because they're very flexible. But what we did here is we used them in a way, and they were almost like, rather than it being a conventional camera like that is over there, and he's over here, they were like extensions of him. It was almost like they were attached to him, like on angle poise, like an angle poise lamp or like a flexi arm. The cameraman would move with him or against him, depending on his physicality. So it became very, it's like handheld, but it's not jerky like handheld the whole time. But it is constantly moving. And I wanted, because my take on the film was always that it was an action movie where the hero can't move. So I always wanted to have that energy, that momentum of an action movie, and yet it's static. But I didn't want it to be inert, so I wanted it to be constantly moving. So that's the way we developed the vocabulary of that. And the other thing that does it is the editing, of course, because when you're cutting, like with you and me in this interview, you cut to me, cut to you, probably do a two-shot, you know, and that's the vocabulary of most films, like 99% of films. But this, there's just you, and then there's you, and then there's you again, and then you again, and you again. So the editor had to, rather than cut between things, he would move him around the screen into different places on the screen, so it becomes like a... So I think if it works, then you will feel part of it, you know, because you can't escape it, there's no relief. You can't think, oh, right, here's the landscape. It's just James again, and again, and again. And the idea was that this approach would make you able to tolerate the act that eventually ends it, because you would almost participate in it.
What was Aaron's reaction, and even his family's reaction, to this entire thing, once they saw it?
They were cool. They were very, I think it's very, I mean, it's very different than us, you know, because for them it's a very, it's an extra intense experience, really, to think that their son or you know, like his sister, for her, his brother had been through this, had gone through this, and spoke so affectionately of them at the time. And it's different watching the real messages and then seeing it in a drama with the intensity of drama, and in a communal setting with an audience watching it as well, and people laughing and gasping and things like that. So it's quite an intense experience for them, I think.
I wanted to speak about the music a little bit, because I was just so even more into it because of the music. It felt like it was the heartbeat of the entire movie. How did you make those choices on really what the soundtrack of the entire movie?
Because you can only choose one actor, really, so the variety of lots of different actors coming in and out has gone. That contrast has gone. So as a director, you think music will be a big thing. The rhythm of scenes will be something that you can create contrast with, and also, most especially, the musical choices that you can make. And we wanted to keep it as varied as possible, really, so that you feel, so that the film didn't become inert. You know, it felt like it was constantly changing, even though he can't move.
You said that you wanted the film to be emotionally truthful.
Yes. Do
you feel like you achieved that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do, yes. Of course I would. I'd be stupid to say anything else, to be absolutely honest, at this stage. It's up to other people to judge that, because it is an important value by which you judge films. And sometimes it doesn't matter whether you're qualified to judge it or not, because an audience isn't basically not going to be qualified to judge it, but they can, because there is something that you can say, I believe that, or you go, no, I don't believe that. It feels fake and phony. Or you go, no, I believe that. It feels right and just. And I think that's an inherent set of values that we have by which we judge things. I do feel we're all bound together, you see. I feel this very, very strongly. And I feel people like Aaron Ralston, who go off at the beginning of the film into the wilderness, and sort of, he doesn't despise the city, but he clearly doesn't want to be part of it. He actually belongs to us, really, and we sort of pull him back in some kind of way. And we're all bound together with these values. There is a commonality about us that is a wonderful thing, actually. And it's not about individualism. It's not about heroic individualism. It's actually about communality, what we all share, the things we all share as a, you know, as a group. And I think that's an important, it's an unwritten element in the film. You just sense it, I hope. But I hope that's there, that he literally swims back to people at the end to be re-embraced.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is wonderful.
Cool. Thanks very much. Hi, I'm Danny Boyle, director of the forthcoming 127 Hours, starring James Franco, and you're watching the Emerson channel.